Hello, kindergarten. Back with stories, and today I have one of my favorite books that I love to read. So let's get right into it. It is called Rosie Revere, Engineer. It's written by Andrea Beatty and illustrated by David Roberts. So the author, the woman who wrote the words, wrote the story, is Andrea Beatty, and the man who drew the pictures and the illustrations is David Roberts. I'm going to take this off so it makes it easier. So all these illustrations are on the cover when you take off that dust jacket. And this book is different than the other two books we've read so far. So these two books, they have paperback covers. They're like floppy. They're made of more paper. But this is a hardcover book. It has a hardcover on the front. Or front and back. Okay, Rosie Revere, Engineer. Title page. This is the story of Rosie Revere, who dreamed of becoming a great engineer. In Leela Greer's classroom at Blue River Creek, young Rosie sat shyly, not daring to speak. So there she is. But when no one saw her, she peeked in the trash for treasures to add to her engineer's stash. And late at night, Rosie rolled up her sleeves and built in her hideaway under the eaves. Alone in her attic, the moon high above, dear Rosie made gadgets and gizmos she loved. And when she grew sleepy, she hid her machines far under the bed where they'd never be seen. Look at all those different things that she's come up with. She has all kinds of different ideas. She uses all different types of materials. When Rosie was young, she had not been so shy. She worked with her hair swooping over one eye and made fine inventions for uncles and aunts, a hot dog dispenser, and helium pants. Because helium is what you put in balloons to make them float in the air. So she filled up his pants with helium, and now he's floating in the air. The uncle she loved most was Zookeeper Fred. She made him a hat to keep snakes off his head from parts of a fan and some cheddar cheese spray, which everyone knows keeps the pythons away. And when it was finished, young Rosie was proud. But Fred slapped his knee as he chuckled out loud. He laughed till he wheezed, and his eyes filled with tears, all to the horror of Rosie Revere, who stood there embarrassed, perplexed, and dismayed. She looked at the cheese hat and then looked away. "I love it," Fred hooted. "Oh, truly I do." But Rosie Revere knew that could not be true. She stuck the cheese hat on the back of her shelf, and after that day, kept her dreams to herself. So that, when she got laughed at, it made her really sad, and she didn't think that she was good at making stuff. And that's how it went until one autumn day. Her oldest relation showed up for a stay. Her great-great-aunt Rose was a true dynamo who'd worked building airplanes a long time ago. She told Rosie tales of things she had done and goals she had checked off her list one by one. She gave a sad smile as she looked to the sky, The only thrill left on my list is to fly. But time never lingers as long as it seems. I'll chalk that one up to an old lady's dreams. That night, Rosie lay wide-eyed in bed, and a daring idea crept into her head. Could she build a gizmo to help her aunt fly? She looked at the cheese hat and said, "No, not I." But questions are tricky and some hold on tight, and this one kept Rosie awake through the night. So when dawn approached and red streaks lit the sky, young Rosie knew just how to make her aunt fly. She worked and she worked till the day was half gone, then hauled her cheese copter out onto the lawn to give her invention a test just to see the ridiculous flop it might turn out to be. Strapped into the cockpit, she flipped on the switch. The Helio cheese copter sputtered and twitched. It floated a moment and whirled round and round, then froze for a heartbeat and crashed to the ground. Then Rosie heard laughter and turned round to see the old woman laughing and slapping her knee. She laughed till she wheezed and her eyes filled with tears, all to the horror of Rosie Revere, who thought, "Oh, no, never, not ever again will I try to build something to sputter and spin, or build with a lever, a switch, or a gear, and never will I be a great engineer." She turned round to leave, but then great Aunt Rose grabbed hold of young Rosie and pulled her in close and hugged and kissed her and started to cry. "You did it! Hooray! It's the perfect first try. This great flop is over. It's time for the next." Young Rosie was baffled, embarrassed, perplexed. "I failed," said dear Rosie. "It's just made of trash." "Didn't you see the cheese copter crashed?" "Yes," said her great aunt. "It crashed, that is true. But first it did just what it needed to do. Before it crashed, Rosie, before that, it flew." Ooh. So here, now Rosie has all these different ideas. "Your brilliant first flop was a raging success. Come on, let's get busy and on to the next." She handed a notebook to Rosie Revere, who smiled at her aunt as it all became clear. Life might have its failures, but this was not it. The only true failure can come if you quit. They worked till the sun sneaked away to its bed. Aunt Rose tied her headscarf around Rosie's head and sent her to sleep with a smile ear to ear to dream the bold dreams of a great engineer. At Blue River Creek, all the kids in grade 2 built gizmos and gadgets and doohickeys too. With each perfect failure, they all stand and cheer, but none quite as proudly as Rosie Revere. So it looks like at their school, they all came up with different ideas of stuff to build. I see a building with like plane attachments on it. Oh my goodness. So I love Rosie Revere because it shows you that, one, you can use your imagination and build all kinds of stuff out of all kinds of different supplies that you could find around your house. The other reason I love Rosie Revere is she realized that even if you make mistakes and you don't get it right the first time, guess what? You have a brain, so you can use your ideas to tweak things, to make changes, to take something off, put something on, think of something totally different. That is the awesome thing about engineers. They think of ways to solve problems, think of things to build to make our lives easier. But they don't just put out one idea and get it right the first time. They have to try different ways, and they probably even talk, different engineers talk to each other to get different ideas of how to solve problems. Like engineers come up with ideas for buildings and bridges and like pipes under the ground, all kinds of stuff. But they have to try different ways. And so when you're at home, I would love to see if you can find like random stuff that your parents say you're allowed to use around the house. Maybe rolls of, when you are done using your paper towels or your toilet paper, the cardboard roll in the middle, little buttons. You could use sticks in nature. Masking tape is awesome. Duct tape, glue, paper, acorns, all kinds of stuff. Anything you could find around here. I mean, Rosie's Rosie uses a little toilet paper roll. So I would love, like, if you end up building something, go ahead and send your, either send me a message with a picture of it or send your teacher a picture of what you've built. I would love to see if you build something. All right, and remember, if it doesn't work out the first time, think of something different to do. Ask for help. You got this. I would love to see. All right, see you tomorrow.